Once again, you sounded amazing. What a beautiful beginning to worship this morning. Thank you. And I admit that I had a bit of a revelation there at the beginning of the song. I thought, those men are rocking that song out. And then I realized that the women weren't even singing. So when they joined, then it became better, well, except for one person. I just had another revelation, but I can't tell you what it is. Good morning, friends. I hope your day is going better than mine is. Here we are at the very, very, very first Sunday of a brand new year. I mean, if we were writing a book, there would be a blank page ahead of us. If we were facing a snowy meadow, there wouldn't be a footprint on it. It's ours to write. It's our tracks to make. There are certainly positive things about a new year. I'm talking about fresh starts, do-overs, new challenges and opportunities. We stand up on the threshold of new, exciting, and different. And all that's wonderful. That's great. But frankly, for some of us, not everything is great about a new year, at least in my opinion, and I understand that not every opinion is shared by everyone. And it's not just that the new year marks the official end of an exhausting and often overwhelming holiday season. And it's not that it means school starts tomorrow. I know our teachers and our students are, and certainly the parents are ready for school to get underway tomorrow. And it's not even that the New Year signals that no matter when our birthday is, we're another year older. I mean, it's 2020, for heaven's sakes. And I just got through writing 2018 on all my checks. So I have to retrain myself for a whole new year, but that's not even the bad part. The worst thing about New Year's for some of us is that we are immediately inundated by two of the most depressing messages imaginable. First, we are barraged and berated online, in television ads, on the side of buses, with a bunch of 20-something models carrying not one single ounce of extra weight on their bodies who are talking about it being high time to lose some weight. How would they know? The women and men in those ads are so fit they'd have to cut off an arm to lose an ounce. And secondly, now that Christmas is over, and it's likely that there are millions of Americans out there facing credit card debt and buyer's remorse anyway, now we begin to get some not so gentle reminders that it's time to do our taxes. As if January wasn't dark and dreary enough. Surely, even in our consumer-based culture, we have something else to sell to us than a new diet plan that'll make me look like Brad Pitt, which, by the way, I would do. And snazzy new tax apps that will guarantee the most return possible and probably clear up acne and hair loss while they're at it. Friends, I love Christmas. But ushering in a new year, bah, humbug. I think I'm just a New Year's Grinch. But on the other hand, I believe that every new beginning deserves to be heralded as good news. and not simply dismissed as just more work to lose a few pounds or more tax issues for me. We don't celebrate engagement announcements by bemoaning the price of wedding cakes, do we? We don't rejoice at the news of a new child by adding up the lost hours of sleep ahead of us. We don't embrace a new career start with the thought that it will take every available moment of our life, maybe for years to come. And we don't buy a new house with a hefty mortgage and iffy plumbing and a drafty attic. What we're buying is a new home to love and live in, an investment in the American dream of prosperity and comfort and living happily ever after. So in that respect, if none other, I think we all have a bit of magi in us. Each of us are those wise men at the nativity scene. When it comes to next steps and New Year's, we're perfectly capable of looking ahead, of prophesying our way forward. So today, I want to talk to you about this gift of prophesying our way forward. A gift we need to pay attention to at the turn of every year and every fresh start we receive. But too often, we face the new and different with a lack of faith and no plan at all. I believe that every new endeavor, including a new year, needs a forward-focused plan. And sometimes that's equal parts of positive thinking and a sketchy roadmap forward. And we'll get into that in just a moment. But first, let's take a moment to be in prayer together. Gracious and loving God, we thank you for the Advent season and the journey that it was for us, that led us from wherever we were 6 weeks ago to the manger and beyond. And we are here this day for a word from you. And we know it's worth our time and it's worth our hearing. But we also understand that if we're to get everything out of this word that we need to get, well, we need to be open to it. So we pray this morning that you send a spirit of openness to open our hearts and our minds and our ears to the message for us today. And I pray to find a way to get out of the way so that it's not my word coming to your people, that it is yours. Amen. Friends, it seems to me that today, Epiphany Sunday, should be about new expectation, new possibilities, new promises made and then carried out. For me, the Magi in our text for today in Matthew's Gospel perfectly embody the hopes and dreams of a truly new year based upon the revelation that God is here, right in the middle of our lives, and all things are possible. Now, the Magi strike out with a new plan, to go to new lands with no clearly defined expectations. Why? Well, because they believe in the reality of a new future, a new promise, and a new kind of king. Like newlyweds and new parents and new homeowners, these Magi are sincere and committed and mercifully clueless. These guys, and maybe gals for all we know, from the east head west until they reach Jerusalem, where they apparently run out of data because they have no idea what lies ahead or where to turn next. But they know whom to ask. See, ladies, sometimes men do ask for directions. The Magi headed west seeking something transformative, and they acted accordingly. They went to the religious capital of Israel, which is also the seat of power for the Hebrew people. They brought with them not protein bars for themselves or sensible shoes for a baby, or even a gift card from Target. Instead, they brought gifts that befitted a royal birth, gifts for a king. But these clueless pagans, these zodiac-inspired Zoroastrians, these star-stuck astrologers, well, you have to admit that whatever they had wrong, they had a lot right. They knew that if they wanted to move forward, if they were willing to step out into the unknown and embrace the possibilities of a new future and get to tomorrow, they needed to prophesy their way forward. They needed to believe it. They needed to speak it. And they needed to do it. So they left their homeland based upon the summons of a new star. They didn't have investment bankers. They didn't have the support of a well-armed military. They didn't even have a strategic plan or a fallback strategy of any kind, or a well-financed safety net to ensure success. What they had was a single star. They didn't even get to see the full spread of angelic choirs and scampering shepherds. What they had was a star and a prophecy. The truth is they only had half a prophecy. The Magi knew, or thought they knew, that the star prophesied that a new leader had arrived, but they didn't have a clue where he was. So without knowing where they were going or who they were looking for, the Magi left their homes in the east, traveling west to Jerusalem. They prophesied their way forward. That is, they believed the star foretold something new, something amazing, something life-changing and powerful. A new king. And they acted upon that belief. Even without a plan or proof, or most of the things that hold you and I back in our day-to-day run-ins with an epiphany. The classic tale of this kind of faithful movement is that of the American pioneers that headed west. People who believed that there was something better, something greater waiting for them if they could leave behind the safety of their established, comfortably ensconced lives and journey towards a new beginning with no assurances other than their hope for a brighter future. As those 19th century pioneers journeyed into a new future, they were often faced with the necessity of changing plans and leaving parts of their old life behind. The Oregon Trail was littered with archaeological treasure for later investigators, because once their most irreplaceable family goods became too heavy to move, they had to toss them aside and they became expendable in the quest for a new future. But our friends the Magi held on to that which they knew was an absolute necessity for their journey. They wandered far from home seeking the new king, the shift in power that the star foretold. They sat down with Herod to obtain the information he could share with them. But ultimately, they ditched their chances at both safe passage and exalted prestige when they took the advice of their dreams over the promises of Herod. Most importantly, the Magi followed and fulfilled the portent of the star. They obeyed. They trusted the ancient prophecy that led them to that manger. And they kept hidden the gifts that they knew they would need when they reached their destination. Now, the gifts the Magi offered Jesus, whether he was 3 days old or 3 years old when they arrived, well, these gifts were ridiculous gifts for a baby shower. When's the last time you took gold and frankincense and myrrh as a baby gift? They were, however, completely appropriate gifts for Jesus' life to come. Just as the Magi prophesied their way forward, the gifts they offered prophesied the life of the new king whom they had come to see. And when they found him, they knelt in worship, for they had seen the divine firsthand. And nothing would ever be the same for them again. Friends, it's true that all of us don't have the insights or the courage of these Magi. But in small but significant ways, all of us can and do prophesy our way forward? Don't we pay this month's electric bill because, well, we know we're going to need those lights next month? We give up some spending money and defer some gratification because we know our family needs health insurance. We build college savings accounts and hopefully savings for retirement. We stockpile treasures in a hope chest because we believe we have a future. In 1895, Oscar Wilde presented his great theatrical success, The Importance of Being Earnest. The play made fun of the silly social conventions of late Victorian English society. Ironically, earnestness became equated with its complete opposite. Eventually, to be called earnest was likened to being foolish and uninformed. Strangely enough, though, in legalese, earnest took on a much more definitive nature. In real estate, for instance, earnest money is the sign of a genuine informed offer. An earnest check is presented as absolute proof that the price offered will be honored. And we have still other earnests in our world, though they might not be so legally defined. Take an engagement ring, for instance. Both its offering and its acceptance constitute an earnest, a promise of a commitment that is to come. Buying baby booties before a child has been conceived is an earnest of a life that anticipates joy. A college fund, scrupulously saved over the years, is an earnest of the desire for our child to have a future that beckons with possibilities. Friends, we have just lived the first week of a brand new year. Yes, this year we might have to take off a few pounds. And it's another year where we will definitely have to pay our taxes. But how will we prophesy our way forward in 2020? I like to begin with what I hope for in the coming year. Might I ask, this year, what are you hoping for? What is your song, or what is your soul long for in the year that lies ahead? And most important of all, what will you do about it? Many years ago, when I was stumped by indecision, which was not a rare event, sadly, but my grandfather Charlie told me about a farmer that asked his son to remove some boards from a high fence that needed repair. And sometime later, when the farmer went back to check on his son to see how he was doing, the young man was holding his favorite cowboy hat in one hand and scratching his head with the other as he stood staring at the fence. "What's the matter, son?" the farmer said. "Well, this fence is so high, and it'll take a lot of hard work for me to get all the boards down. I guess I'm just having trouble getting started." With that said, the farmer grabbed his son's favorite cowboy hat and threw it over the fence. "Well, what did you do that for?" the son asked. "Well, in order to get your hat back, you're going to have to take down a few boards. You might even take down a few more, and before you know it, you're done. Or you may take down just enough boards to get your hat and decide that's enough for today. And that's okay, because you can come back tomorrow, throw your own hat over the fence, and take down a few more. Either way, you'll get the job done." So friends, what hats are you willing to throw over the fence to get started this year? What earnests can you lay down in 2020 that will bring in a much fuller and more fruitful future for you, your family, and for the kingdom? What spiritual earnests will you pay forward? It seems to me that we need to prophesy our way forward in 2020 so we can go where God is calling us to go individually and as a community of faith. May Epiphany Sunday get our mental gears grinding as we look for new stars filling the heavens, telling us to get off our tail feathers and put one foot ahead of the other and start up on the journey that lies ahead of us for 2020. May this journey lead us somewhere significant that involves enough work to remind us to rest and to celebrate the Sabbath we were meant to have and to share. And may 2020 nudge us to take new paths that lead us closer to God and to each other. And may we experience enough dark days to be reminded that the sun always follows the cloud, and that with the coming of God, may we know that the darkness cannot overcome the lights in the world, because God, who is the light, is in it with us. May you have a happy, healthy, and blessed 2020. Amen. Will you please stand as you are able and join in the hymn of response?